Hello and welcome back to the GynoCast. My name is Dr. Eric Heegaard. I'm a board-certified obstetrician gynecologist. I'm here with Twila Dang, my buddy, my friend, my boss.
Hello.
My wing person. And today we are talking about HPV because even though we sound like we're here, but really Twila's on the beach and I'm meditating in the Himalayas.
Yeah, we're on a bit of a break, just a small
That's
one.
right.
We're working hard on season 2, and while we were working, we wanted to make sure that we provided just a way to sort of keep connected with us and keep sharing information until we are back with full-length episodes.
That's all right, because we are all about emotional connection. It's all about connectivity.
Oh, that's nice.
In this world.
I have
Seriously.
my business hat on. It's all about value.
Oh, okay.
providing
Well,
value.
whatever. I'm all about connectivity. And so I found out that Twila and I have another connection that we both feel passionately about, which is we are both rabid Engelbert Humperdinck fans.
Yeah, we are. No, we're not.
Actually, we were just, I don't even know how this came up. We started talking as Twila and
It's
I
your
do
fault.
something.
You sang a song, and I guessed.
Oh, that's right,
You
right.
asked me to guess who sang it, and I literally just pulled that out of my hat.
Oh, I know
was
what
like,
happened.
Engelbert
Right,
Humperdinck. And you're like, no. And you're like, I don't even know he's still alive. And okay, and don't ask me how I know this. But somehow I know he's still alive.
So I can tell you this, and we will get to the HPV. I'm
Yeah,
going
I
to do this
promise.
very quickly. But,
Oh, boy,
But
here
we
we
were
go.
talking at the end of our last recording about how if you want to ask questions at the matriarch.com website, you can
Yes.
go to
matriarchdm.com.
and you put in.
hello@matriarchdm.com.
And so I started singing, hello again.
Yes.
Hello.
Which is not Engelbert Humperdinck. It's actually Neil Diamond.
Yeah, and then I said, can you imagine having a name like Engelbert Humperdinck?
Yeah, and I said, yeah, because I'd own that. That's the name.
Well, I
you
will
get
tell you
beat up a
something.
lot as a kid, but
I will tell you this. Well, he didn't because his real name is Arnold George Dorsey.
Wait,
And
so he changed it to that?
He actually decided to change his name.
You know what? That makes me respect you
Humperdinck.
even more. I now respect. I appreciate that.
All right, can you name one Engelbert Humperdinck
No,
song?
not even one.
Okay, let me sing this one, which I think
Don't
is,
sing it. It costs me money. You can just say the title.
Nobody will ever recognize it. Please release me.
Oh, Let Me Go.
Let
Okay,
me
wait.
go.
I know. You know how I know that song? Here's how I know it. Because when I was a kid,
Because
they used to-
I
stop singing it.
don't
No, stop. That's going to cost me money. You know, they used to have those old commercials where it would be like the greatest hits.
Yeah.
And that was always the song they played as like the outro when they flashed the 800 number to call and get your double CD set. So I totally just know that part
and
of
you
that song.
And I think you know this one too. And after the loving.
No, but I don't know that song. I'm not that old, I told you. Okay.
I don't think that's the right song. Okay, so because you can tell that Twila and I are just kind of screwing around a little bit, but we're on a break here.
Yeah, we are.
And so,
We're on
but
vacation.
one thing I don't want to be on break for, Twila,
Yes.
is protecting ourselves
Amen.
and our cervices, if we have cervices.
Tell it, Sister Soldier.
And if you don't have a cervix, you may also worry about your throat, your anus, or your penis.
Yeah.
And so even if you're not a female, those other parts of your body you might care about.
Yeah.
So you may have seen advertisements on TV talking about HPV, human papillomavirus, and the vaccines that address them. I think there's one that's really a total guilt trip. Have you seen that one?
The
where-
ones with the boy and the girl, and they're
Yes.
like an adult, and they wind them all the way back to the age
Yeah.
where they should have gotten the vaccine.
That's right.
And they were like, you didn't, but if you had known there was a way to prevent it, you would have done it. Wouldn't
Yeah.
you, Mom?
Right.
Wouldn't you, Dad?
And
Yeah.
you know what I think about that kind of guilt tripping?
Good for them. Go for it. Do it.
There are a few things that I think that being kind of having pressure put on a parent for making bad decisions is appropriate, and this is one of them.
Okay.
I'm just going to tell you, and I know we're probably going to get emails about this saying that we're wrong, but
Well,
human papillomavirus is an incredibly effective vaccine. In fact, just recently there was a study that came out in the International Journal of Cancer. So this is not like the, South Bulgarian Journal of whatever.
Yeah.
No offense to South Bulgaria.
I
I'm
know.
just
Look
saying
at you. Emails
there's-
left and right.
There's a lot. I don't think we have a large South Bulgarian.
Pay attention. We're international. You
I
never know.
So forgive me. That just came out. But I'm talking about there's a lot of little journals that really have very little significance or importance. But the International Journal of Cancer is a big cancer journal. And so this came out of a study in Denmark. And in Denmark they implemented HPV vaccinations as part of a childhood vaccine program in 2009. And so they actually have what they call cohort, which is a bunch of people kind of moving through life together.
Right.
That they look at.
Right.
And so they had, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands.
Okay, we get it.
Geez, you're ignoring me.
I'm not. I'm taking notes.
Of children that received this vaccine, and now they are adults.
Okay.
And so they compared people that received their vaccinations in 1993, which is, I'm sorry. Let me restate that. They looked at people who were born in 1993 versus those who were born in 1983, because the ones in 1993 were old enough that they received the vaccinations.
Okay.
And what they found was that there was a significant reduction in severe dysplasia or precancer in that cohort, meaning the ones that were born in 1993, as compared to the ones in 83 which did not get the vaccination.
Okay.
So, and we are talking about a 40% reduction in severe dysplasia, which means severe precancer, which is not good.
Yeah.
And so you might think, 40%, well, that's not that big of a deal, but that's half. And so you might think, half, that's, that means, half didn't have any difference. Well, if you think about it more, you got to realize that it is recommended that children, adolescents, be given this vaccine as early as 9, but ideally around 11 or 12 years old,
right,
both boys
exactly.
and girls.
Exactly.
And so, and in that cohort, in the United States, it is shown to be almost 100% effective. 100% effective in terms of preventing HPV-related disease.
Wow.
And so why the difference? Well, the reason is because these Danish children received this vaccine when they were 16, 17, when they were beyond the time of ideal vaccination, and also at the time when many of them began to be sexually active.
Right.
And the ideal time is to vaccinate before sexual activity.
Okay.
And so, I will tell you, I've been doing this long enough that I have treated a lot of cervical cancer in my life. Luckily, not so much in my later career here because, well, the pap smear and technology for identifying precancer and treating cancer and precancer has gotten so much better.
Right.
But I will tell you, parents out there are wondering whether you should do this or not. You got to realize that, number one, cervical cancer is a horrible way to die. I'm just going to.
Listen, you can't say that. Listen, you can't say that significantly enough, because I think a lot of people that are trying to make this decision, not for themselves but for their children, are too wrapped up in the notion of it means I'm giving them permission to have sexual activity, and they're too tied up in things that they're uncomfortable talking to their kids about, as opposed to what could happen later on down the road.
Right. It has. There's no correlation with giving this vaccine and people's decision whether to have sex or not. It's
right.
just
And
absurd.
also,
it's absurd.
Also, can you speak a little bit about the vaccine and sort of the quote unquote side effects of the vaccine?
Okay, so let me tell. I will talk about that in a second, because that's a great question and something of great concern. But let me just tell you that if you look at cervical cancer, 99% of cervical cancers are due to human papillomavirus. 99%.
Wow.
And it's due to two basic ones, 16 and 18. The HPV vaccine is almost 100% effective. There aren't that many things that can do that.
Right.
100% effective in protecting children from getting precancer and cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's other HPV-related diseases, like there is a proportion of throat cancer, anal cancer, and penile cancer, which are also related to HPV, including 16 and 18, but also 9 and 11. And so this includes genital warts and that sort of thing. The new vaccine, which has, I think it protects against 9 HPV variants. It used to be 4, now I believe there's 9, is again almost 100% in terms of preventing things like HPV-related throat cancer,
wow.
HPV-related genital warts, anal cancer. And they're not all in all those areas. I just want to specify that cancers in those areas of the body are not all HPV, but the ones that are HPV related, it appears to be very effective. And so please vaccinate your children. I know there's a lot of anti-vaccine people and people who say, well, my children will always make great decisions and will never be exposed to HPV. And the reality is that if you are alive, which most of our listeners are, and sexually active or have been sexually active, which most of our listeners are, you have very likely been exposed. Because even if you make great decisions, and even if your current partner thinks he or she is making great decisions, you're also having sex with everybody they've ever had sex with, and their partners and their partners and their partners.
Exactly.
And it's not just necessarily having penis-vaginal sex or anal sex, but it can be any other kind of touching where fluids and contact go between people, and just touching and oral sex and etc. And you cannot, unless you wrap yourself up in plastic and sit on the couch and do not have any contact with people, there's a very good chance you've been exposed.
Right. Or and that's the thing, we're not. I think that's the thing that's the hardest to wrap your brain around as a parent. I fully understand that. I am a parent. I have 2 teenagers. Full disclosure, my husband and I made that decision a long time ago. We did have both of our older children vaccinated, and we will have our last child vaccinated as well. Yeah. But that came out of a very specific understanding of, we did our research. My husband has a medical background. He did the research about the medication, about the risks of the medication, about what it could prevent long term. I did sort of the emotional due diligence of opening this up to a conversation that we would, on some level, want to talk to our children possibly about sex and relationships and responsibilities and our ability to protect them from things that could happen later on. And even with all of those things combined, it was the best decision we could make. Why wouldn't you do something that could prevent your child from suffering later on, from developing cancer later on, from developing complications that could lead to like infertility later on?
Precisely.
Why wouldn't you do everything that you could to make sure that your child doesn't put anybody else at risk and that your child is never at risk? It just seems like it's a no-brainer. And as more time goes by and more studies are done and the vaccine is out longer and more people are able to get it, and you can see that people are growing up fine with it and are okay and are living successful, healthy lives, in part because of it. I think it hopefully will just make it easier for people to make that decision. I'm sure there was a point in the timeline of medication where when we first started to give out vaccinations to younger children, we were just like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this.
That's right.
And then over time, as you saw that it worked and kids were healthier and people lived longer and healthier, happier lives, it just became normalized. What I hope is that this will eventually become normalized too. We're not there yet. But the more we have these conversations and take away some of that anxiety that just comes from sort of personal angst of wanting to protect your kid but not wanting to expose them to something too soon, which I fully understand.
Well, let me ask you this question. When you gave your kids the MMR or the Tdap or, varicella vaccinations, did you tell them what they were for?
No, a lot of them, they were too little to get it.
Right. Well, but as
you
are a parent, at 11 or 12, you can
say
we're giving you a vaccine to prevent an infection that can cause cancer.
And I think what happens, honestly, I think the reason why you see a lot of hand-wringing is because when people are doing their research about this, they wind up sort of getting exposed to things that kids are 11 or 12 are that age where they are pretty savvy. And you can, and if you're coming in specifically just to do that, as opposed to it's being grouped with your tetanus shot or whatever else, you wind up getting into that weird place where they start going, well, why are we doing this? Well, why? And to be honest, it's a part of this whole discussion and the difficulty around it is that it comes from our generation of helicopter parenting, where we want to include kids in all of this and treat them like little adults.
Okay, I'm going to push back on this a little bit.
Okay, go.
And there's no science to what I'm saying. I'm just talking as a parent and as a human.
Okay.
Right? That if you are that uptight about talking to your kids about sexual activity, then you probably have a relationship with them that will allow you to say, you're getting this vaccine and you're doing it because I'm telling you to do it.
Actually, I think you're right about that.
And because those of us who are like inclusive and want to talk to your kids, we're probably more comfortable about talking to them about sexual activity anyway.
Well, I know a lot of people
at 11 years old, you'll
just do it.
Can just say
you'll roll your eyes at it, but you'll do it because I told you to do it.
But
like I said, I think that's twofold. I think because our family was very much like, hey, we're going to do this. We'll explain to you what it is, but you're doing it.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of families that sat down and had discussion, quote unquote, with their kids, and they decided not to do it, and they let the kid have input. And I was like I said, oh, you know what? You get to make those decisions. That's your family. That's how they run. Kind of hope you guys will circle back around the island on that later and decide to do it. I mean, when you see commercials that really push things like, oh, go get a meningitis vaccination before you send your kid off to college, it seems to me like, given that we know who we were when we were kids and we knew the stupid things we did when we were young people, that it's just a given that your kids are going to do a certain amount of stupid stuff, and you just hope it doesn't, like, now your biggest fear is you hope it doesn't wind up in the internet.
Yeah, right.
You know,
exactly.
but they're still going to do it. So if they're going to do it, protect them.
Exactly. Now, you talked about safety, and let me just tell you that this is as of 2014. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
This is 4 years ago.
Yeah.
At that point, there were 60 million doses. 60 million doses of the vaccine that had been given.
Wow.
The side effects were pain at the incision site, sometimes a low-grade fever, dizziness, and nausea. There's never been any well-documented serious side effects. None. Zero.
Even those ones that like pop up on like the daytime talk shows, were like, "Oh, she went into a coma for 4 days."
Well, it's not true.
Okay.
It's not. If you get the vaccine, you get in a car accident, you end up in a coma. It gets correlated in terms of data.
Right. So
there's
something.
There's never been a documented case of someone getting one of these vaccinations and having some sort of side effect or event happen that can be purely attributed to the vaccine.
Okay. So they're like most likely it happened at the same time. It happened within the same window, but it can't necessarily be 100% pointed back. You gave them that vaccine, and that's what happened to them.
That's right. If I have Cheerios in the morning, I walk out and trip on my front steps and break my leg. It's not because I had Cheerios.
Yes, it is, because Cheerios suck. Why would you eat those first thing in the morning? I'm just kidding.
I'm
kidding.
I love Cheerios with sugar.
I'm kidding. I love Cheerios.
Honey Nut Cheerios.
And
you're telling
kidding.
me to. What were you giving me a hard time about saying
I
something
know.
about?
I'm totally kidding. It's a local company too. I'm kidding. I do love Cheerios.
And a local company that's done a lot of really good stuff in terms of funding public education.
I'm totally just being a jerk. I love Cheerios. I just prefer not to. I don't eat that kind of stuff in the morning.
Yeah, you are too clean. But and now this is the other kind of sobering thing, that as of 2015, there was a study shown. 2015, that showed that only about 50% of girls have been vaccinated for HPV. So we got to do better. This is one of these things. As a parent, just submit. How do you like that? Like when you're doing judo, when you're doing your jiu-jitsu throws. Twila,
yeah, because I do that.
Yeah, that when your husband,
but you know what?
just submits and taps out. Being a parent, there's sometimes just tap out and just do it.
Well, and that
it's like wearing seatbelts.
Well, I find that super discouraging, because I feel like that just goes back to this whole weird, imbalance that we've created, where boys get a certain standard and girls get a certain standard. And like, we actually have people that won't protect our girls because they think that girls should be more chaste or whatever. It's complete bogus double standard, and it's the kind of double standard that can wind up really harming somebody later on. So that's right. We got to do better, y'all. We got to do better. Yeah. And I know I have a daughter and a son. I have 2 daughters and a son, and I am determined to do everything I can equally to protect them.
And I will tell you this, that when people think that teens are reckless and make poor decisions, I will tell you that as a women's health practitioner, as a clinician, you would not believe the things that people tell me, which is, that they do, which as upstanding, reliable, responsible adults, people do stupid things.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Everybody does it
all the time.
And it's not, you don't. Those are the things you really don't generally talk about at cocktail parties with, the really stupid things, which I could tell you about.
Well, I told you, every woman in there, every actual woman that has a circle of women friends has an agreement, and I will share the agreement, because this is just us letting you into the circle.
This is good. Okay, everybody, stop and listen. This is sort of thing that.
Yeah, this is secret circle stuff.
Okay.
So every woman has an agreement with, like,
right?
Sort of. Every woman has an agreement that their 1 or 2 closest girlfriends knows that if something happens to you tomorrow, there's like usually a box in your house or something in your house that you want out, that your family never needs to see. That you don't want your kids to see it, or you don't want anybody to know about it, and you just go and destroy it for them. And everybody knows, everybody has one. I know I'm in a circle, and I know 2 people know where mine is.
Do you have such a box?
Yes. And everybody has. I am the protector of secret for at least 5 other women. That if something happens to you tomorrow, I know where to go get it and dispose of it, so that your family doesn't have to deal with it.
I'm trying to think if I feel a little kind of bad about.
Listen, all the years that I worked on with you on this show and worked on radio with you, everybody knows a fundamental piece of my secret circle is taking my laptop and destroying it, because I've searched for so many super weird things in service of our show.
That's probably true.
That I would look like some sort of crazed, deviant. So I've always told everybody, listen, I'm joking, but I'm not joking. Just take my laptop, hit it with a hammer, toss it in the river. Nobody ever needs to go through my browser history ever again. And everybody's like, well, you can erase your browser history. I'm like, no, you really can't ever truly erase your browser history. Let's not. I don't want my legacy to be like, we thought Twila was an upstanding person. Then we looked at like 2015. Oh my God. Yeah. So yeah, no, I always tell people, just destroy it with the box. Thanks.
So I want to end this conversation with a little story that I've told actually on the GynoCast before.
Okay.
Which is the importance of protecting yourself. And, we're talking about HPV and vaccinations, which goes along to pap smears, but just being aware and being careful is that one of the saddest things that I've ever had happen, which I've described before, was I had a patient of mine who was very heavy who said, will you see my sister? Because she's also very heavy and she's embarrassed. And she was about 28 years old at that time. And I did an exam, and I could tell right away, this is invasive cervical cancer. And this she was funny, she was lovely, she was just wonderful. This young woman had not had a pap smear forever because she was embarrassed to come in and have it done because she was so heavy. And she had invasive cancer and died. This is not stuff to mess around with. And, get tested. Work with your physicians. Take the available information and protect yourself. We are here to help. You need to be skeptical and cynical about everything, but protect yourself. This is real stuff.
Before we wrapped it all up, if you are, say you for whatever reason your parents did not expose you to this, and you're like 18, 19, you're off on your own now, you're at college, is there an option for you as a young adult to go get this vaccination? Where is what's the age cutoff for the vaccination?
26.
Okay, so you actually have time and an opportunity if you, as an older person, if you hadn't been given this before and you want to sort of take on your own sort of responsibility for your health, which you should want to do, you still have the option of getting it. It's not too late if you don't get it as a young person.
It's not too late, but the efficacy is decreased because the ideal time is to get it before children have sexual activity.
Right.
Which is why the optimal time is around 11 or 12.
Absolutely.
And that's not saying that kids are having sex at 13, but you're in this.
Yeah, but better to get it.
Safe zone.
Better to get it before the hormones kick in and you're having those conversations anyway.
Yeah, and it's the idea is get it before they have sexual activity, but also number two is that their immune system is very robust at that point, so they get a good immune response. So it's a double win.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much for listening. Please go to our Facebook site, at the GynoCast Facebook site, and join because it's a wonderful group.
Absolutely. It's easy to do. Go to Facebook and go to the GynoCast. You request to be a member if you aren't already, and we will vet you and let you in. It's a private group because we have sometimes delicate conversations there, and we want to provide a safe, respectful place, which we do.
That's right.
Also, if you want to know more about the show and more about us, go to the website. Go to matriarchdm.com. You can go to the GynoCast page. We have previous episodes of the show. We have a little information about us. We have the syllabus if you want to check out or need information from previous episodes. And you can even email us at hello@matriarchdm.com.
Hello. So thank you for listening to us talk about HPV, which is a sexually transmitted infection, which allows me to segue into this. After the love,
I'm going to get you.
I'm still in love.
Stop
with
singing!
you.
You're cost me so much money.
That's the notorious
Engelbert
Engelbert Humperdinck, who chose that name himself.
All right,
he's still alive.
Thanks for listening.